Welcome to the Black Wealth Creator Podcast, where we help uplift the Black community through financial education. Debt repayment. It is so important. Listen, I'm always talking about debt and the importance to pay it off, because paying off debt is going to elevate you towards wealth. Whatever your wealth is, it can be, if you want $100,000 in the bank, $100 million in the bank, paying off debt is going to really help you reach that goal. So on today, I just wanted to go over a debt repayment strategy. It's a very popular strategy known as the debt snowball. It's a very popular strategy. We're going to talk about what it is. We're going to talk about some of the benefits of it. And we're also going to talk about some of the cons of it. But like any debt repayment program, they all work if you work them. So let's get started. Debt snowball. So what is the debt snowball method of repayment? So the debt snowball method is a debt repayment strategy. It's like, okay, cool. So I've listed off about 4 steps in order to achieve this strategy. First of all, you want to list out all your debts, smallest to largest. So list out all your debts, smallest to largest. Remember, debts have two things. Debts have two things: a balance and minimum payments. That should let you know whether or not it's a debt. If you go and look at your electricity bill, and we did a lesson on this before, but I just want to reiterate. So if you go and look at your electricity bill, there is no minimum payment. There's just a payment due. So you have to pay that entire payment when it's due. But if you go look at like your mortgage, if you go look at like a car payment, a credit card payment, a student loan payment, furniture card payment, like any type of card payment is going to be normally a debt. So debts have two things: balances and minimum payments. So when you list your debts from smallest to largest, you want to list your smallest balance to your largest balance. So if it's $250 on that credit card, or if it's $25,000 worth of student loans, you want to list those out, starting with the smallest, ending with the largest. And that's the first step of the debt snowball repayment method. The step number 2 would be figure out how much extra money you have per month. The only way to really know how much money you have left over at the end of the month is to budget. And the only way to effectively budget is to track your expenses. So what do you like? Track your expenses. This means for the very first month, if you don't have a budget, if you already have a budget, you know how much going in, how much coming out. Good, perfect. This step should be pretty easy to you. All you know is look at your budget. Okay, at the end of the month, I have $200 left over. Boom, you're good to go. But if you don't have a budget, then the first month, I would recommend you just track your expenses. And I would want to do a more detailed lesson on budget, but this is just real quick. Like I said, quick and dirty. But so this is just real quick. Track your expenses for a month. Whatever you swipe, whatever you pay in cash, just write it down. Track your expenses for a month. Afterwards, that next month, or at the end of that month of tracking, you want to begin to look at, okay, what went out, what came in, because you want to write down all of this. What went out, what came in, what will consistently go out, what will consistently come in. If Granny gave you $20, you can write that down while you're tracking, but she's not going to consistently give you $20 every time you go visit her. So you don't want to make that a part of your budget. If you had to borrow money from somebody, you can write that I borrowed $25 from somebody, but don't make them a part of your budget. Don't make outside assistance a part of your budget. This should be all your budget should be based upon your income, not someone else's income. And when I say if it's a married couple and y'all share financial goals together, then it should be a part of y'all's income. So that's how you figure out how much extra you have. So step number 1 was write down smallest to largest. Step number 2, figure out what your extra money is. Number 3, pay the extra money towards the smallest debts. So listen, once you've decided how much extra money you have per month, start putting that towards the smallest debts minimum payment. Now you want to continue to pay all minimum payments so your credit score doesn't tank. You want to make sure, like during debt repayment, you pay all minimum payments so your debt doesn't tank, like so your credit score doesn't tank. So you paying all minimum payments, but then with that extra money that you have left over that you tracked in the last step, you just want to put it towards the lowest balance. So if the balance was $200 and you have an extra $100 left over each month, and then your minimum payment due for that bill, because it's part of your budget, you will have that minimum payment is like $25. So you're going to start paying $125 towards that bill. And so that begins the debt snowball. And basically you pay that bill. And so then step 4 would be repeat. So just repeat. You're going to pay off that smallest bill. So now you got an extra $100, or extra $25 from that minimum payment. Then you got an extra $125 to put towards that second smallest bill. And so then that's how the debt snowball begins to roll. So let's say that balance had $500 and your minimum payment was $50. So now you're putting $175 each month towards that bill. So within the 4 months that it takes you to pay off that $500, now you're putting towards the next bill that was $1,000 that had a minimum payment of $25. So now you had 125 plus the 50, and that's 175 plus the 25. That's $200 you're putting towards that. So it's just a snowball. It repeats until you pay off that last debt. So that is, in essence, the debt snowball method. The pros, what are the cons of the debt snowball method? So some of the pros are motivation. As you begin to pay, you will feel motivated. You'll see your smaller debts getting paid. You're going to be like, woo, let's go get it. Like, that is an excellent feeling to begin to actually pay off debt. Excellent feeling. So that's the pro number 1. And then the pro number 2, implementation, in terms of how quick you can do this. Within the deciding factor, within you deciding to do it, you could start doing it. So if you say, all right, I'm going to do it, you can begin to list your debts, smallest to largest. That's you starting it. And then you begin to track, you begin to pay off, and then bada bing, bada boom, you're out of debt. Now, what are some of the cons of the debt snowball method? So there are some cons, and I'm going to list them. But one thing I do want to make note and to tell you about, one thing I just want to make you aware of, that I said in the beginning, every debt repayment strategy works if you work it. So if you work the debt snowball to perfection, it's going to work for you, and you're going to be out of debt at the end of it. So you really don't care about the cons of it because it worked for you. If another method like the debt avalanche might work for you, or the method in which you're paying more on the payments that matter most, like if any of these methods work for you, then they're going to work for you if you work them. So it's just something to be aware of, because I'm going to list out some cons, but I don't want you to be like, oh man, I'm not going to do the debt snowball. No, give it a try. If you're trying to get out of debt, give it a try. And that motivation factor, that's a real thing. So it might outweigh the cons that I'm about to list, because it's just like you're motivated by paying off the smaller things. So what are the cons? Like, let's dive into the cons and we'll discuss it. So the con number 1 is interest. You will the site I watched was like, you most likely will pay more in interest because you're not focusing your repayment strategy based upon APR, annual percent interest. And so you were going to probably pay more on interest for some of those bigger items that have higher interest rates that you're kind of like kicking to the end. So if a smaller bill, let's say $500, but you only have $100 extra a month, if it only has like 7% APR, then I mean, $500, 7% APR, we're looking at extra $35 in interest. But divided by like 12 or whatever, it would be something like that in order to calculate what your interest rates would be. So we're looking at about $6 extra. So towards as part of your minimum payment, but that's neither here nor there. So let's say that, so it's extra $35. We'll just keep it simple like that with 7%, extra $35. Whereas opposed to another bill that's probably $2,000, and you're gonna put that at the end, but it has 20% interest. So $2,000, 20% interest, that's $400. And like I said, you would divide that. But let's just say, for simplicity's sake, it took you a year to pay off the $500, a year to pay off the, it's gonna take a year to pay off the $2,000. Then you're gonna actually end up paying an extra $400 from the year two, like from the $2,000, unless where you could have put your extra payments towards that $2,000, you would have paid it down quicker and paid less interest. So it's just, that's one of the cons, that you're going to pay more in APR or pay more in interest because of the method. And then that's just the nature of putting your bills lowest to highest, not looking at interest rate and stuff like that. So number two, the number two con would be time. Once you begin to look at, okay, I got $100 left over, but my highest bill is $20,000. So it's like, now, once you work the method and that motivation starts to get you in rah, you start to doing it and you start to paying off all these other debts where your income begins to open up, then you can reach that $20,000 debt part. Now there is another like con, or not a con, but another asterisk I put towards this method, is that your income is extremely important, because if you don't have enough income, then it's going to take you, as part of time, it's going to take you forever to pay off some of these bills. Like if you only have an extra $100 a month and you've paid off all of your other debts, but you still only have, like with your lifestyle living, and when it might not even be extravagant, you only have $100 a month left over because your income is so low. Like you got a car that you paid for, you got rent that you got to pay because you're not in a house, because you don't want to pay the extra expense of actually home ownership type expense. If the AC go out, you got to pay for the AC type stuff. So you don't want to pay for that, but so you rent, so you're renting, you own your car and everything, like you're straight, you watch what you spend, you watching all this stuff, but you're still like, and you're out of debt except for this $20,000 bill that you got. And if we're talking $20,000 and you're only making $100 extra a month, like towards the payments, that's going to take forever. Let's say the payments on the $20,000 bill is $400 a month, and then you put the extra $100 on there, that's $500 a month. Well, for $20,000, $500 a month, 40 months of you spending all of your extra cash towards that bill, and it's still gonna take you a little over 3 years to get out of debt. So that's where time is a con here, but also that's where income is a bear. Like we have to make sure that we're actually trying to push and like increase our income. We've talked about this before, but whether that be going back to school for a better education, whether that be trying to find a new job within your field that gonna give you, or whether that be like whatever it is, maybe refinancing some stuff or refinancing that. But even if you do that, that's still not gonna help you, because that $20,000 is still gonna be $20,000. So like I said, I just don't know, but that is a con to be aware of. And yeah, so that's the debt snowball. I still encourage everybody, I'm still working on it myself, to get out of debt, because it is important. It gives us more bang for our income when we're out of debt. Like if we're able to save $1,000 or invest $1,000 a month, then our wealth is going to begin to grow tremendously. So I just want to go over that particular debt repayment strategy, the debt snowball repayment strategy. Yo, listen, this has been another episode of the Black Wealth Creator Podcast, where we help uplift the Black community through financial education. Remember, getting money is easy, but building wealth takes time and effort. Anybody can do it, especially you. Be blessed.